The fact that the customer are considering us the provider in the middleware space doesn't mean anything if we don't understand where we are positioning and how the market is perceiving us. The Gartner Group, one of the major analyst group, as you know, watches the software industry and they report to their customer about the major driver in this industry, what is important, what are the key drivers in the industry, and also they suggest to their customer who has a competitive advantage. Which is why I decided to invite one of their most senior and respected analysts to give to us a realistic view on where IBM stands and how we are positioned in the software industry. So please, join me to welcome Peter Sondergaard from Gartner Group.
Thank you. We've just seen some very nice pictures from Copenhagen, but trust me, yesterday did not look like that. I guess for some of you, you might have guessed that the name Sondergaard may not necessarily be American despite my accent. I'm Danish, and I'm sorry about that. Some of you can say you're sorry that I speak with the American accent, and others can be sorry that I'm Danish. Yesterday there was a snowstorm in Copenhagen, so it took me about 26 hours to get here. Nevertheless, we're going to spend 30 minutes, not necessarily only talking about software, but talking about where we see the industry. What we see are the major high-level challenges that everybody faces and that your customers face. And therefore, we would be able to give you at least our view of where we think things are moving. However, before I start, I have to tell you that the most complex thing to do these days in this industry has nothing to do with the technology. It's nothing to do with the complex business practices. It's nothing to do with people. It has to do with how you dress. Because these days, dressing for a speaking engagement has become so complex. In San Diego on last Monday, I was the only person in a suit among 5,000 people, so I got that one wrong. I thought all the way down here how I should dress in terms of sort of a .com but local dress, and gave up about 24 hours into the flight. But I do have my old economy toolkit with me, so I was ready on stage if need be. But I guess we can decide that that's of the past, so away with that. Let's get on with the presentation, and let's look at some of the challenges. And also, let me give you a little bit of intro to Gartner material. Some of you may have seen it, but not all. We are paid a bonus on the amount of information we can get on one chart. And these bonuses are huge. As you will see, because some of the charts are very dense. Now, it's not visually satisfying, but on the other hand, we try to do that to be able to provide information to customers so that they can use the stuff. Furthermore, most of you will hope that this is the end of the presentation so that I can get off the stage fast, because it says conclusion. Unfortunately, that's not so. This is the beginning. What we tend to do is actually give the conclusions up front. And if I summarize the conclusions in terms of what we're going to talk about over the course of the next 30 minutes, it's essentially three things. And these three things are interrelated in whatever you do towards your customers. And number one, what this covers is going to be the fact that e-business is a dreadful word. I'm sorry. I know you guys have spent a lot of money, but it is a dreadful word. Because what we're really talking about is business. We don't have to add an E in front of everything. And what we're talking about is essentially that all of us understand the fundamental processes that make companies tick. And the conclusion here is that over the next 5 to 10 years, organizations that are your customers will look into what are the 5 to 7 key processes that define what they do, and they will essentially shed everything else. This is a long transformation, therefore it takes 6 to 8 years. The pace of change will increase, but it takes a long time. You cannot do this in a short period of time. Number 2, technology is the inhibitor of growth. Okay? So let's start to reverse our thinking. Over the course of the last 5 years, it has been that technology solves everything for your customers. And that what customers needed to do was to understand how do they re-engineer their business processes. Well, in the boardrooms around Europe, Middle East, and Africa, organizations have understood now that they need to re-engineer things, and now they're looking at the IT department and say, get your act together. And the IT organization suffers with a huge legacy base, or because there are Brits here, let's be polite and call it heritage base, which is a base of technology that just doesn't move that fast. Furthermore, they have access to every piece of technology that their competitors have, at least in general, and therefore we believe that sophisticated clients of yours will start to act using sophisticated technology, act more as what we call type A organizations, instead of acting as type B or C. Type B are people that sort of invest in the middle of the road of technology that's been well tried and what have you. Type Cs are the ones that have no money to invest in technology and may not in fact need it, because there's nothing wrong in being type C. Organizations have to shift and become type A. And this I've always used as an example in terms of illustrating that. Is the best example today of a type C organization is a toilet seat manufacturer. There is nothing there except bringing down the cost of manufacturing a toilet seat. But as some of you have heard, there are now sophisticated toilet seat manufacturers that are type A, built-in heating in the seat, nice if you come from the Nordic countries. Web access, so that it can do chemical analysis of how you feel in the morning. Access to your doctor, thus, therefore, and recommend that you stay at home. Even built-in screens in the floor, which exists now. If anybody wants to see this, I'm Gartner's internal expert in toilet seat technologies. In the Netherlands, there is a sophisticated advanced technology environment where they built it into the floor, which ultimately, you know, is women's revenge at men. Because now you can't stand up and miss the toilet. You have to sit down and read the screen. Nevertheless, act as type A. And then last but not least, we also have to understand that the people that buy from you are going to change. The people that buy are going to act much more in terms of, number one, obviously viewing you as a particular and key player in terms of building the infrastructure, but the dynamics of the workforce means that you have to teach your customers to plan much more ahead. Friday at a conference in Copenhagen, I asked a large audience of quite senior user organizations how many of them knew which people they needed 18 to 24 months out. Nobody does that. How do you think the skills crisis affect your customers if they don't do that? So you need to assist your clients in terms of understanding what key people skills do they need out in the future, because if they don't have them in place, they're not going to be able to buy your technology. And last but not least, the people that buy from you are going to change, and we'll talk about that later in the presentation. Let's get into this. This is a 30-kilometer view from the business perspective, because we're tying together business, technology, and organization. These cannot be separated anymore, and therefore what's happening overall in business? Well, number one, we've got a number of drivers for the quote-unquote new economy, i.e. the people without ties. Those lead to a set of business challenges which you all know about and read about over the course of every day picking up a newspaper. And those are things like the need for agility and speed, focus on core competencies, which your clients are doing, the 5 to 7 key processes that define what they do, and number 3, obviously also focus on the customer. Something that for us Europeans, sometimes this is slightly difficult, as you know, when you visit the supermarket, irrespective of where in Europe you visit the supermarket. Now, this leads to a set of new business models that are emerging. And for about 4 or 5 years, the assumption has been that this would be the pure .com organization. I guess I can reinterpret something that we've said on stage for many years as a question, which is, what is the difference between a .com and Elvis Presley? The answer is the .com is really dead. But that may be stretching it a little bit too far. This is nothing against Haburi, but actually they are probably an excellent example of somebody that is sitting there and saying, the world is not black or white, the world is not old economy or new economy, there's something in between which defines the hybrid state of new organizations over the course of the next 5 years. And that is organizations and your customers that understand that what makes up a business or an organization are 3 core things, 3 high-level processes. Number 1, customer-centric processes to which there are people tied, to which there are systems tied. Number 2, back-office oriented processes, whether it's a government organization or a manufacturing organization, they have that, to which there are people tied, to which there are systems tied. Number 3, a set of knowledge management, research and development oriented processes to which there are people tied, to which there are systems tied. And today, your customers unfortunately start at the bottom and look primarily at the technologies that may solve the re-engineering of the processes. The result in CRM, 65% of CRM projects fail. And therefore, what you can assist your customers in doing is understanding, and these are our recommendations to user organizations, is define the gaps in your processes, understand where things are missing. In CRM, for example, understand how you, for example, interlink different avenues towards the customer, different channels to the customer. Understand also how you regain old customers. Those are things you start off with, then look at the people, then look at the systems. You need to do that because these 3 things are tied together, and if organizations want to trade with other organizations, these pieces of software processes need also to tie together to external parties. And we'll get to that when we start and look at some of the challenges when we talk about the front end of this quote-unquote revolution or business process re-engineering that's happening. Understand that I'm trying to avoid the E word here, right? As much as possible. It will sneak in. How do you assist your customers in evaluating where the world is moving? Well, number 1, we would view this as being in 2 dimensions, possibly more, but at least 2 dimensions in which customers are moving. One dimension is how does it impact their sales model and their pricing models going forward as they start to move out towards the world and become not only inwardly focused with IT systems, but outwardly focused as well. And the second dimension is, where does a transaction actually happen? Does it happen in the old economy systems or does it happen in the new front end? Most organizations that have these e-marketplace initiatives or B2B initiatives, which is where the primary focus is, start at the top right-hand corner and will fail. Because they think they're going to build the ultimate solution in which they not only install new technology, but also massively shift their internal processes. This takes a long time, which is why this is something as boring as 1990s business process re-engineering. And it takes time. So therefore, you can assist your customers in understanding that they pilot the front end, they start to move towards that top right-hand corner, but as an insurance company, for example, you would probably now be looking at a channel enabler in which you tie together your channel towards the customer and don't disrupt your existing distributed relationships. This is the way we would view the world going forward at the front end of these business processes. You can call it e-CRM or e-supply chain or whatever you want to call it, but it is understanding the fundamental business processes that make organizations tick. What are the phases that people go through? We think that there are 4. And this is one of several charts that I will call a swimming pool chart. A swimming pool chart in Gartner terminology is a chart that's developed around a swimming pool by a bunch of analysts, usually with a beer in their hand. It doesn't mean that it has less value. It often means it has more value because they actually think more creatively. Nevertheless, these are the phases that we think clients go through. The questions you ask your clients are the 4 ones on the left-hand side, which says, who is in charge? What's the business goal? Does this function as a channel? And what are the most frequent mistakes made? If you look at where people have been, all of your customers, including IBM themselves, the present phase was where this was driven by the marketing or the PR organization. And nothing against them, but the business goals were really vague, if non-existent. Did it function as a channel towards the customer? Not really. What were the most frequent mistakes made? I dread to think, in the early years of IBM websites, how many customer interactions have been lost. Millions, which were not followed up through the whole process. And that happens everywhere, including Gartner, by the way. Exploration phase is the next one, where the majority of your customers right now are. And that phase is one where it's various departments that are in charge, which means no core strategy. Number 2, it's to add value to customers. That's good. There's a business objective. Number 3, it augments existing channels. What are the most significant problems we see today? Try to go into the majority of websites, and if it takes you more than 3 seconds to find a telephone number so that you can call people, that means they have stale data and difficult navigation. They're not tying together the channels. Number 3, this is where people will be going the next 2 years as exploration. There will be an identifiable person in the company. In the Haburi example, it was the CEO that is the business leader. It has explicit profit and loss targets. It's full and equal channel to other channels. And the most frequent problems are channel conflict, incomplete channel definitions, what have you. Again, I'm going to have to go back to something that you need to teach your customers is understand what the processes are. The ultimate goal is top management driving this, is to reshape the business, its new business models. So in fact, this is not a question of functioning as a channel. It's a completely new way of going towards the customer. What happens in some cases, we can only predict that people may do it too fast. They may ignore their core value proposition, but these are things you could help your customers with. Understand where they are in all of this and bring this to executive management. Let's look at technology. And within that, obviously also look at where we think some of IBM's software business is. This is a radar screen, and it takes probably an hour to figure out, at least it did for me. You put yourself in the dot in the middle, which here is black. That's where we all sit right now. And you say to yourself, the only way that my customer will be able to actually create some competitive differentiation is through using sophisticated technologies that nobody else is using. Now the chart is red, that from the bottom out we go 10 years out, right? And at the bottom you have customers on average worldwide using this technology, less than 20% of the customers. At the top, it's more than 60%. So what you need to understand, and what most users need to understand, is differentiation, because everybody has access to the same technology. Acting as a type A means you need to position yourself vis-a-vis the technologies in the middle, such as wireless web technology, Bluetooth, speech recognition, ASPs, e-payment, enterprise portals, XML. These are the core technologies that define enterprises going forward as aggressive users of technology and as focusing on their business strategy. Now, there will be some of you from the finance space that will sit there and say, wait a minute, these people at Gartner Group are stupid. The rest of you might say that as well, but that's okay. But why do they position e-payment by 2005? Well, here's why this is a swimming pool chart as well, is every user organization, and a lot of them are actually using this chart right now, is every user organization needs to develop their own, because in the case of finance institutions, e-payment obviously is something you work on today. expecting that by 2005, 60% of organizations around the world will start to use different kinds of e-payment technologies. So sophisticated technology is important. The next thing which is important, the 2000 winner of most complexity on one chart. It's also somebody that was interested in history because it looks like Napoleon's 1812 campaign. I always battle whether or not I should show this chart or not. But for you, this chart is actually fundamental because most of your clients are dealing with this problem without being able to visualize the problem. And I'm sure that somebody in this room can come up with a better drawing, and I'd be more than happy to take any suggestions here. Let me explain the chart. The chart basically talks about the challenges that your clients have in terms of building the application infrastructure that supports the business processes, right? On the left-hand side of the chart, we have what we call the process scope of an organization. Today, most people sit and dabble with an SAP or an Oracle or well, maybe not so much anymore, BAN installation of some sort at the back end, an ERP installation. 5 years from now, they will dream themselves back to the easy days of installing SAP. Because what they are adding is components that lead to things like supply chain management, B2B-oriented software, front office and CRM-oriented software, business-to-consumer-oriented software, and the ultimate goal in terms of where people are moving is what Gartner calls collaborative commerce. And collaborative commerce brings together everything, but we also believe that throughout the next 5 years, there's going to be no software in the application space, no software vendor in the application space that will satisfy more than 40% of a medium to large user's requirements for business process software functionality. I.e., I know that Oracle or SAP goes to large customers and say, we have everything. We've got the CRM thing, that one we've locked away. We've got the back office, that one we've locked away. We've got all the B2B-oriented and e-marketplace software, so that one's done. We've got the supply chain stuff. We've got everything. Just buy everything from us. We don't believe that that will satisfy customers in the next 5 years. They'll only find 40% being okay. So people are left with building this, and let me do a commercial for another Danish company, like Lego blocks. Unfortunately, today, most companies have mixed Duplo and the smaller blocks, so they can't link them together, and this is where your role starts to become important. Because the infrastructure software, we believe, is vital to the success of creation of organizations going forward. So that's the process side. Application intensity or integration intensity goes up tenfold with that, which means that the most significant needed resource the next 5 years are not, and I stress not, going to be COBOL developers, I'm sorry. It will be application integrators. People that can integrate middleware and applications together to create a solution for people, for your clients. What can they do in terms of selecting things? They can either build it, and this is the age-old, this has been the same situation the last 30 years. They can build it, or they can outsource it, and in the middle they can buy an application, right? In terms of outsourcing, we've added a challenge that IBM's services organization have the next 5 years, which is business process outsourcing. It's not just outsourcing the systems, outsourcing the whole business process. Now, Type A, Type B, and Type C companies have different avenues, which are the arrows here. Most Type A companies will probably tend towards templates and components and build it themselves. Type C organizations will tend towards ASPs and business process outsourcing. You have to assist your customers in understanding this because unfortunately every company today, including IBM, is both a Type A and a Type B and a Type C organization within one. So this is the challenge that your customers need to understand. Very quickly, if we then turn and look at IBM, what are some of the key critical growth factors for IBM overall? We believe it becomes and remains services and software. We also believe that there is a 60% chance that somewhere IBM over the next 12 to 24 months will actually make a major acquisition in a business consulting space, i.e. solving the business process outsourcing issue or tying together some of the remaining missing bits in terms of platform middleware. We believe IBM is unmatched in terms of a complete middleware and IT services portfolio for organizations that have complex, heterogeneous enterprise situations. So, although I am purely independent, this is our independent view in terms of you actually being quite well positioned. If we look at the different areas, and we'll go through these fast, in particular because you're going to hear a lot of positive stuff, so let me tell you what we think are the challenges here, is for the key middleware areas, we believe the challenges remains complexity, your dependence on new technologies such as XML, the requirement to do rapid deployment, and rapidly growing the developer base needed to support this, i.e. the application integration base. So this is your challenge overall. If we look at the key areas, again, challenges, probably market share in terms of the database space on Unix and NT, and then also that there still is, and you are and have to be involved in changing this perception when we talk to customers, a mainframe-centric perception of IBM. You can change that. Visual aids, it is a question of attracting a broader market, add more pre-built components, and then speed to market. Lotus still managed the Exchange attack. The image in terms of innovator when we talk to clients, and I know a lot of Lotus people will now ultimately kill me for saying that, and then also application development tools and the overlap with other parts of IBM. Tivoli, complex deployments in terms of scalability, price expectations, and addressing the small to mid-sized market. So that's the technology bit. Advanced technology, IBM very well positioned in terms of complex heterogeneous environments, but need to broaden the scope. Technology is the inhibitor, and therefore it is important to start to address that, in particular as the world moves into a situation where investment in capital, including software and hardware, will be more challenging. What will happen with the budget, therefore? We believe the budget in the EMEA region in terms of spending on information technology on average 5 years out goes up to probably about 8% of revenue. But it won't go in a straight line, and we'll see a small dip right now. So the challenge is dealing with the budget and understanding that the traditionally centralized European and also African and Middle East IT organizations will start to see budget flow out into departments. So we need to follow that. The role of IT management, it says the CIO. Again, let me do a quote-unquote English European interpretation. It's the IT director. And let's broaden it and call it IT management. Where are they moving? What is the challenge for them? It is to go from a functional head operational manager perspective, which is the old era, where their leadership skill was defined by how well they alerted the IT organization, to the web-based era in which what defines key people that you engage with and your customers by the fact that they are business visionaries and technology opportunists. And therefore, the reason why I spent time on business and on new technologies, because these are the key critical people you need to sell to. What defines their leadership skill? It is their ability to define the office of the future and lead the customer-centric efforts of an organization. Now, a CIO from a large UK insurance company, when we presented this about a year ago, came up to me and said, I can't do that because that's the role of my CEO. Right? And my answer to that was exactly, because now you have an equal chance of becoming CEO. The IT director or CIO job is no more a dead-end job. that every COBOL developer has aspired to. So what's the recommendations out of this presentation? Let me not focus on the recommendations in terms of IBM. I'll let you dwell on these, but just recap 3 important things at an extremely high level, of which none of it includes any sort of revelation for any of you. But number 1, we're going through a shift that will last 6 to 8 years, where the most important thing that your customers can do is to focus first at the processes and then at the technology, and define the gap in their processes. Then they will succeed. Number 2 is to focus on the importance of new technologies and the fact that they need to build application integration expertise in order to solve the situation of technology being the inhibitor. And number 3, understand that the people that you are selling to are going to shift. That where we have sold to people in suits, the people that we will sell to in the future will be 21 years old, will have green hair, and pins in their tongue. Because that is the diversity required to solve the skills problem going forward, and also to deal with the challenges of managing new business processes. All I can say is, may the computing force be with you in whatever you do. And as an old Slovakian proverb once put forward says, is tell the truth and get out of town. I have attempted to tell what we believe is the direction of the world. Unfortunately, this evening I will get out of town. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Peter. I think it makes sense to have a clear understanding on how the market and the analysts are perceiving us. I have to say that in a couple of charts I'm still thinking what was the real meaning, because we're not so easy, but at the end of the day I think I got the simple message, is that we are well positioned as a team. We have, as Peter said, a significant and a huge product portfolio in the middleware, and I think that we can crush the competition. If you think about our competitors, I think that our competitors will die to have our product portfolio. They're trying to have our skills, so they're trying to recruit our people, and maybe they're trying to have our customer. But as I said at the beginning, we are here to push the edge. We are here to start to crush the competition seriously. And if, as a team, we pull all together, we will be successful. And follow me in watching at what we can do to the competition if we act as a team. Please watch the video. Okay, we are a great team. In the next hour, I will spend time on the software group in EMEA. We spend some time on 2000, just to recap what we have done by region and by brand. And after that, we will have the 2001 to set up our priorities, the software group priorities for 2001. I will ask the help of the brand leader. So the first thing I want to do is to introduce them to you. We have the 4 brands with us. For AIM, David Stokes. For data management, Jürgen Gallmann. For Lotus, Fritz Flashman. And for Tivoli, Agostino Dosi. Okay, software group in EMEA 2000. I want to recap quarter by quarter. As you probably know, I took over this job in September, so in 2000, the first part of the year has been managed by Massimo Bonciani. So I want to share with him what we have done quarter by quarter. In first quarter, we were more or less on target, and Massimo was good, was okay. In second quarter, we had a good quarter, and Massimo was happy. Maybe you don't see that, but was very happy. I can tell you that he was very happy, but he's not an easy person to be really over delighted, so it was difficult to have him really smiling. And let me spend a few words with Massimo. Massimo, as you probably know, ran EMEA for almost 2 years. He took over Dan Lautenbach's responsibility at the end on 98 and moved to his new responsibility in August 2000. In 2 years, he was very successful. So I invite Massimo to stand up. And please join me on a round of applause. Okay, I took over the 1st of September. They told me, big job, but we are in a good shape. I worked hard in September to understand the different brands. As you know, I was running Tivoli. And in September, in third quarter, we screwed up. We missed in every region, in every brand, so it was really a bad quarter. But I can summarize in this way. So in October, we started to do hard work, to go back to the basic, to manage the pipeline, and to ensure that in every situation we had the right people, the right understanding of the sales cycle, the right sense of urgency, and at the end of the day we had a wonderful fourth quarter that I summarize in this way. Okay, to recap the performance in the fourth quarter and the year 2000. In fourth quarter, we overachieved revenue by $50 million, so we achieved 104% on budget for the revenue. And as you know, we are measured on revenue and profit. In terms of profit, we overachieved the profit target, and we delivered 120% of the quarterly budget. So it was an excellent quarter, and it was across the board. Full year, at the end of the day, was a good quarter. I'm sorry that I showed 99%. In reality, it was 99.5 in terms of performance. So we missed out of $4 billion, $30 million in revenue. So you can argue if I'm smart or not, but this is the reality. We missed by $30 million. But in terms of profit, in any case, we overachieved the year. So we delivered 107% in terms of profit. So in summary, I would like to consider the 2000 a good year, with an excellent fourth quarter. Okay, let's see our performance. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this chart, but I want to recap what you have done by region, what you have done by brand, by platform, and the last chart, you already showed this chart from Mike Lowry, so I will not spend a lot of time. If you look at the top left box, our performance by region, in total at EMEA level, we grew 10%, so 2-digit, almost matching the industry. And we had 4 regions growing 2 digits, above 10%. Specifically, I want to mention Nordics. Nordics grew 19%, not distributed, total business. If you move on the right on top, you can see the performance by brand, including the solution, that is another brand that is not represented here. Excluding Tivoli, everyone achieved or overachieved the revenue, and I want to specifically mention data. This number I refer to distributed. On distributed, data increased year on year by 50%, 50. Good. The only brand that was struggling is Tivoli. As you know, it was up to August I was managing Tivoli, so I share the responsibility with Agostino. And I think that was a disappointing year. But to put things in perspective, if you look at the traditional competitor like CA, IBM, they had even a worse year. So all in all was a disappointing year, but also the system management market is changing. Moving to the next box, if you look at the split by platform, we still have, our business is still heavily dependent on System 390, but on distributed we add another 2 points. So today we generate, in terms of revenue, 57% on System 390 and 43% on distributed. To give you an idea, when we started Software Group in 95, 96, the share was 90% System 390 and 10% distributed. So we are moving versus a balance. This is important because the distributed industry is growing faster than the System 390 industry. And the last chart is showing that in every brand we beat the competition in terms of growth. And we are, in EMEA, market leader in every brand. So to summarize, 2000, from a financial standpoint, I recap in this way. Overall, we had a good performance. We had excellent growth in 2 areas, data management overall and WebSphere. We won some significant deals in terms of ELA. To give you an idea, we closed last year 88 ELAs, 2 times more than in 1999. And I mentioned 4 larger transactions. HSBC, that we already covered. Barclays was another major ELA in North. We closed UBS in Switzerland, another big deal, and Unicredito in South region. We also, I think that I can represent my boss, Dan, saying that we were a key contributor to the overall Software Group performance. So if you look at the total performance in Software Group, I can say that EMEA was a significant contributor to the overall performance. We also started to grow in non-traditional area, and this I go back to what Mike explained. It's important for us to grow in new area in order to have additional growth. And I mentioned 2 specific areas. We closed a very large deal with Siemens. Siemens last week had the press release. We closed a multi-million dollar transaction on e-commerce. So all the business strategy solution in Siemens will be based on our middleware. And we started to see significant deals in the pervasive area. We closed France Telecom and Sonera, 2 big transactions. So we are seeing the momentum coming from new area and new application area. This in terms of financial result. I also want to spend some time on non-financial result, mentioning 2 things. First, clearly we are a sales organization and we spend a lot of time recognizing and giving credit to the sales people. But I can tell you that after 3rd quarter, in 4th quarter, I saw everyone in every function. I don't want to mention specific function to avoid to forget someone, but everyone was fully dedicated with the right sense of urgency. And if we had a great quarter, it's because each of you in this room was really dedicated and devoted to be successful. So I want just to say my personal thanks to every one of you for the excellent piece of work you have done, and I think that you deserve an applause. Last point, we spend the time on teamwork. Teamwork is key. Teamwork is key within Software Group EMEA, Software Group Worldwide, and with IBM. In Software Group EMEA, we have to work much more together. For instance, when we sell a WebSphere solution, we should include the data management solution. When we sell WebSphere, always the customer buys a database. Still, they buy too much Oracle, so we need to work more, and we will do something in terms of motivation in order to be sure that we are moving in this direction. Now, this is the recap of 2000 from my standpoint. I will now ask each leader to spend some time to recap the 2000 brand by brand, and then I will go back to 2001. So we start in alphabetic order, so no one can see that a brand is better from the other. So from AEM is the first one. David?
Thank you, Maurizio. Hello, everybody. AIM in 2000, what a great year. But before we get into the numbers, I'd like to cast my mind back 12 months. And we set out with two major goals for the AIM brand in 2000. First, we wanted to take our workstation software revenue from a small but rapidly growing base to more sustainable, consistent quarterly growth across all regions. And also, we wanted to be a more significant contributor to the total software group revenues in EMEA. Second, we wanted to execute ahead of our plan on the growth cases that we'd put in place for MQ Series and WebSphere. So how did we do? Well, we had strong growth across all regions. And I really must point out the performance in SEMA and Nordic. Here we had explosive growth. In the North region, we overachieved our plan after extremely strong growth in both 1998 and 1999. But importantly, we had good double-digit growth every quarter in every region, and we contributed over 30% of the total software group distributed revenue. So that's a regional view. Let's have a look at things from a product standpoint. In WebSphere, we had a blowout year. We grew at over 4 times the market. We were way above our most optimistic estimates. And I want to thank everybody for the tremendous work that you did to grow WebSphere in 2000. But we make a lot of headlines around WebSphere. But our largest revenue contributor was the MQ Series portfolio. And here we've established MQ as a de facto standard for messaging middleware. And on top of this, we grew MQ Series Integrator at over 150%. On tools, the growth looks a little lower. But hidden behind this is the fact that now Visual Age for Java is a leading tool for e-business in the European market. So that's a product standpoint, but where do we now stand in terms of share? We are the clear number one in the market, as you can see from the bottom left-hand chart. And we took share in year 2000 in the face of some very aggressive competition, particularly from our public enemy number one, BEA. But also we faced new competition from traditional players, such as Sun, Oracle, and Microsoft. And on the other hand, we saw new competitors, aggressive niche players, such as Vitria, STC, and webMethods. But our share gain would not have been possible without the great job that our AIM marketing colleagues did to create such a strong and positive brand identity for WebSphere. So that's the numbers. Now let's look at some highlights. First, I'd like to recognize the tremendous job you all did in establishing such a strong base for MQ and WebSphere in the integrated and aligned accounts, particularly in the finance industry, where we saw some of our largest transactions, including the largest ever WebSphere deal worldwide at UBS for over $20 million. I can't forget the other sectors. We also made some good breakthroughs in other industries, with deals such as Air France, Volkswagen, and IKEA. Second, while we have a lot more work to do, we've had some good partner momentum. We grew at over 150% in GMB, and we recruited over 900 new business partners to the WebSphere platform. Our relationships with influencers are also beginning to pay off and deliver real business value. I mentioned already the great work that our marketing team did in 2000, but it bears repeating. We truly have a great level of noise around our brand, and we're set up for a tremendous 2001. And finally, we welcomed over 200 new people to the team in sales, pre-sales, and services. And it's great to see many of our new team members overachieving their targets in their first year at IBM. Like Maurizio, I too was also grateful to our technical teams who played such a critical role in closing some of our biggest transactions. And particularly in a year where we introduced many new products into our portfolio and we went through some transitions in our product line. So, yesterday I spent some time to thank the AIM team. But today I have to thank the extended team for helping make year 2000 such a great year. Without the whole team working together, the SAMs, the sectors, the IT architects, our marketing community, truly our performance in 2000 would not have been possible. So that's AIM in 2000. Now Jürgen, I know you've got a great story to tell around data management, so let's hear it.
Hey. David, thank you, and congratulations to the big success you had with the team and the market momentum. So let me tell you about data management in 2000, and first talk about the competition. It was a challenging year for the competition. They struggled, failed to make their numbers, and I believe they cannot afford anymore their homes and boats and all that stuff. We had momentum. We had passion really to win in that marketplace, and we hit especially the company of Larry Ellison hard. Now let me take you through the accomplishments that we had in 2000. Look to this scorecard. We grew in the distributed area, the business year over year, 49%. 49%. And look at this. Like David mentioned it, Nordics, way above 100, Central, way above 100, and this was a large effort, and I really need to thank these guys really to make that happen. Now, if we move a little more in the analysis of the revenue stream, where it comes from, we have three segments. Content management grew year over year 47%. Business intelligence, which is a very hot place to be, grew 57%. And our database business, the transaction-based business, grew over 60%. Now, how are we doing against the competition? And the chart in the lower left corner describes that. The market grew in EMEA, based on the latest DataQuest numbers, grew roughly about 20%. Now, we grew 49%, more than double of that growth. And our hardest competition, Oracle, only grew 15%. What does that mean? They are losing market share. They are losing market share against us. That brings me to that nice pie chart there. This pie chart, also based on the latest DataQuest numbers, describes we are the number one in this marketplace. We have over 35% market share, and we really hit the competition hard. Now, let's move over to the key highlights of 2000, who made that happen. In the enterprise accounts, there were many deals that we made, but there was one I need to mention, which was the Deutsche Telekom. We closed at the Deutsche Telekom the largest workstation transaction ever in our data management history. $35 million. It was a great win against Informix and Oracle, and it was a big teamwork with IGS, with GBIS, and the whole technical sales community. So this was outstanding. The next part which is really our future, and it's really the momentum that we need to take there, is at the channels. We grew the part of the channels business from 10% in 99 up to 30% in 2000. So clearly it indicates we have momentum there. And it's also very interesting that now a third of our workstation revenue is associated with influencers. So we really see that also pulling off, really taking the momentum. Now, David also mentioned the great efforts that the marketing team has done for AIM. I can say the same for data management. 1,300 press articles in the 4 major countries, means 100 articles in favor for us every month in the press. This is outstanding momentum, and thank you guys for this great job. And now finally, the most important piece, the people and the skills. We have hired over 100 people from our competition. Really, they said, I want to join that winning team, you're on the right track, I want to be there. And the other second piece, which is also very important to us, and without we would not have the success, our technical sales folks spent over 150,000 hours. These are 18,000 days in helping to close the business. So this was a great 2000, and you will hear a little more about the 2001 in a minute. So now, let's hear about the success that we have in Lotus, and I want to hand over to my colleague, Fritz Fleischmann. Fritz?
Okay. Great. Thank you, Jürgen. I think that was really a great year for you and your team. So now I'm very pleased to share with you the results of Lotus in the year 2000, and I can tell you it was really a great year. It was a good year. So let's look at the scorecard. First of all, the revenue. We achieved a revenue of $552 million, which is 102% of plan, and a year-on-year growth of 7%. So I think that deserves a big hand. Actually, if you look at the growth of 7%, I have to say it's a little bit moderate. But we understand the dynamics, why it is. First of all, the messaging and collaboration market, and this is still the biggest portion of our revenue, is slowing down. And as you see, we did there a 6% growth. While the emerging markets like knowledge management and e-learning, they are growing a lot. And if you look at our revenue, but it's still a small portion, we grew there 55% and 155%. So the challenge for the year 2001 is clear. We have to grow these segments very fast to come back to a double-digit growth again. Now let's have a look at the regional performance. I'm very pleased with the performance of the Central region. It's the largest region in EMEA, and they grew by 11%, and they made their plan. So, great performance. But the absolutely stars were the Southern region and the Nordic region. They both overachieved their plan, and they grew both 24%. So, big hand to them. If you look at West, it seems to be that they had a problem because the numbers show a decline of -25%. But I have to mention something. They got a hit of more than $20 million in revenue reversals due to accounting issues which went back to 99 and 98. Without that hit, if we take that away, they would have grown 25%. So also a good performance. Let's move to the market share. We are very proud of our market share because over the last 5 years, we have outperformed Microsoft every year. And at the end of the Q3, we have a market share in EMEA of 47% versus Microsoft 28%. I think this is a real great performance. And I'm sure at the end of the year 2000, when the new IDC numbers are coming out, and they will come out, I think, in the middle of February, we will look even better because we had a great Q4. And then look at the seats. We could grow the seats in 1 year from about 23 million seats in Notes and Domino to about 33 million seats. So it's clear that Notes and Domino is an industry standard, that we have a huge base to work on. Let's look at the achievements, at the main achievements in the year 2000. First, I think we were able to launch a lot of extended products in the messaging and collaboration space, like SameTime, which is real-time messaging, like wireless offerings based on WAP technology, like QuickPlace, which is a collaborative environment at the web, and like ASP offerings. And we could place these offerings at very large enterprises like Barclays Bank, like Nokia, like Ericsson, like Telefonica, like Telecom Italia. Second, there was a lot of mind share in the year 99 and a lot of hype about knowledge management and e-learning. But we couldn't sell it. But in the year 2000, we really could place big deals in the enterprises in KM and e-learning. And examples are a large KM project at Daimler Chrysler and also a large e-learning project at Philips. Third, we overachieved the plan in the channel organization. The channel organization achieved 104% of plan. They grew 4%. So good performance there. I think with the new distributed channel and marketing organization of IBM, there's still much more potential now to grow in this segment. We had a great year in professional services. LPS, Lotus Professional Services, is a very important part of our organization. We make something like, and it's different from country to country, 30 to 40% of our revenue in this space. So, and they had a great year. They made 104% of plan, and they grew 16% year on year. And last but not least, we overachieved the operating margin, and I'm very proud, and my team is very proud of that, because we achieved 103% of plan, but we could grow an incredible 193% over the last year. So it's the first time in Lotus that we really have delivered a significant profit to the IBM company, and that deserves also, I think, a big applause. So all in all, I have to say it was a very good year for Lotus. I would like to thank my team and all the people who have supported Lotus, and I'm looking forward, of course, to a year like that. So thank you to all, and thanks a lot for the good performance. So, and now I want to hand over to my colleague from Tivoli, Agostino Tosi.
Okay. Thank you, Fritz. Good morning to everybody. First of all, let me congratulate all my colleagues for the strong performance that they had in the 2000, two-digit growth, outstanding performance. Unfortunately, today I don't have a so nice story to tell you about Tivoli, as we used in the past. Tivoli in 2000 for us was a difficult year. You face a new market, changing in the marketplace. And at the end, we grew, but only one digit. And for a two-digit growth company, growing only one digit is disappointing. Let's see what happened. After 3 years of two-digit growth, we closed the 2000 with a 5% total revenue growth. And this was the result of a very weak first quarter, a solid second one, a disaster, and a cosmic disaster, a catastrophic third quarter, but an outstanding fourth quarter that was the best quarter in the Tivoli story and allowed us to close with a plus in the market. The major part of the region showed positive growth, and I'd like to mention CIMA, 33% growth year on year. It's not only a question of growth, but most important is we started creating Tivoli references in this complex and growing market. Second, Central. 99 for Central region was an outstanding year. Central was able to grow in the 2000, two-digit again, and most important, in the second and the last quarter, the Central region performed better than US. If you are looking at a different area of the Tivoli business, I have to say that System 390 was very good, two-digit growth, outstanding performance in the TBSM, 200%, disappointing result in the distributed, flat year on year. And this is the only reason why we are not able to grow 2-digit. We slow down faster than expected in the traditional Tivoli framework business. But we were very good in capturing the new business opportunity. Very strong growth in storage, 100%, very strong growth in security. We continue to increase the channel contribution to our business. We had a 40% growth, but more important, we changed the way to make the business. In the 99, the 75% of the channel contribution was in the high end of the market. In the 2000, the 55% of the contribution was in the middle market, where we want our business partner to play. Look at the market. It was a disappointing year for us, but still we are maintaining our leadership in EMEA. Our competitors, look at CA, look at BMC, they lost market share. We marginally grow in market share. So at the end, if we had a very difficult year, for our competitor it was even worse. Let's look at the achievement. We continued in the 2000 to close very large and significant deal. But most important, we started changing the way to make business with some of our customers. We started signing strategic deal with some customers, and this customer will use our product integrated in their solution. An example, Winco for the ATM and the teller machine, MCE for the storage area. We started getting and catching the new opportunity in the market. France Telecom, pervasive deal, $60 million overall for IBM. Hardware, services, WebSphere, and $5 million Tivoli. A new internet service provider platform for the pervasive world, for the mobile world. We started to put the basis for the future growth. Ericsson agreement, a joint partnership agreement to develop management solution in the mobile, for the new mobile devices. And you know how is a tremendous opportunity for us in the mobile world. The great job that the Tivoli services and the support made in the 2000 allowed us to recover a lot of critical situations in our customers, allowing us to sell again in the existing market, to create the basis to sell up and to cross-sell in the future. And I'd like to mention Deutsche Telekom. Deutsche Telekom was the biggest deal in Tivoli, signed 2 years ago, $50 million. We deployed the project, the customer is happy, and the conclusion was that in the last quarter, we closed $10 million new licensing and $8 million new services. So I'd like to thank David Bartlett and his team for what they did in the 2000. Well done, David. So let me summarize. A difficult year, 1-digit growth, but still we are the #1 in terms of revenue contribution for the Tivoli worldwide. And we are the #1 in our marketplace. And these guys are the best basis to approach a successful 2001. Thank you.
Okay. Thank you, Agostino. Before we move to 2001, it's time for another recognition. It's now the time of the Rookie of the Year. And I have to share with you something. A couple of weeks ago, Dan, my boss, called me saying, Maurizio, I had a good idea. What do you think if we recognize the Rookie of the Year? And I said, okay, yes, I like that. Then I immediately call my operation manager, Deborah, that is British, asking, what does Rocky mean? And I assume that a lot of you has the same question. In summary, is the person that came on board during 2000 and was the smartest and quickest guy to be, or lady to be on board and to deliver results. So it's a great pleasure to me to announce that the Rookie of the Year is a person that joined in summer in Norway, IBM, and in few months he delivered 160% of quota, immediately catch up and understood the complexity of IBM. He was not only a sales leader, but also he teamed very well with the rest of the team. So he leveraged the same organization, the rest of IBM, and he also showed a great passion for the business. So in few words, a very smart guy. It's my pleasure to announce that Rookie of the Year is Per Lomsdalen from Norway. Please join us on stage.
Now, this is truly a special award to start off your career in IBM and to do that well. So for remembrance of this award, we have a special Rolex watch. Thank you very much. And maybe as importantly, or maybe not, depends on what you need, how about a check for $50,000?
Okay, 2001. I want to share with you what are the key priorities for Software Group in 2001, Software Group EMEA, and again we will go back to the four leaders to briefly try to summarize what are the key priorities by brand. I know it's a long presentation, but I think it's a unique chance to share what is our strategy and what we have to do to be successful. Okay. In the next couple of charts, I don't want you to put too much focus because I understand it's difficult to follow, but I want to give to you some key messages here. That is very simple. If we look at the market, the way the customer and the market are spending money on the distributed middleware software, we can analyze and make this consideration. First of all, the customer are spending roughly 50% of the money in what we call the large account, and 50% in reality is 45% in what we call the SMB, the small medium business. If you look at the growth, the SMB is growing 2 times faster than the large account space. So the first comment is that this is a market 50%, 50%, SMB is growing faster than large account. If you look at the way the provider as us, Oracle or whoever, are fulfilling the revenue to the customer, to the market, this is a market in which, again, roughly 50% is done through direct sales and 50% is done through channels. Channels, I mean distributor, ISV, whatever. If you look at the platform view, 25% of the revenue is on System 390 platform, and this segment of the market is growing around 3%, while 75% of the market is on distributed and is growing around 18%. So in summary, it's a balanced market, 50% large account, 50% SMB, growing faster on SMB. Is the way the provider fulfill is 50% direct, 50% indirect, and is mainly a distributed market that is growing at 2 digits, while the System 390 is 1 digit. Now I want to benchmark IBM, to position IBM, in the next chart I want to position IBM towards this market data. And you will see that, as you can expect, we are unbalanced. If you look at our share between large account and SMB, mainly we are focused on large account. 67% of our revenue is on the large account. And as I said, this segment of the market is growing slower. Second, if you look at the way we fulfill 85% of our business directly, so we have a small channel capability. Third, if you look at our split by platform, I recall that the market is 25% on System 390, 75% on distributed. Our share is 57% on System 390, so 2 times the market, and 43% on distributed. And if you look at our growth, we are growing very well on System 390, almost 3 times the market, while on distributed we are growing as the market is growing. Last chart, bottom right. If you look at the way our top competitor in software, this is only related to software, are fulfilling, you can see that the most competitor from this standpoint is CA, that in any case has 3 times the indirect channel capability that we have. So clearly, It's easy to understand that one of the key priorities we need to have is to focus more and more on SMB and on the channel space in order to be more successful in this area that is growing hard. This is why Massimo changed job and went to the staff position, just to change the situation. And is clearly, knowing Massimo is driving this effort with the sales approach, with the sales attitude. Next thing he will do is to review opportunity by quarter. What we have to do now, I want to show to you, based on this analysis, what we are doing as a team. This is not only true for IBM, for Software Group in EMEA, but for Software Group worldwide. What we want to do to address this, that is not an issue short term, but as you can imagine, can become an issue long term. So if you go back to my presentation, my position, the way we want to cover the market, from a Software Group standpoint, we are aligning our SAM organization to that. And what we want to do is the following, to be sure that we deliver the right message. First, we want to continue to be as successful as we did in the large account. I'm not delivering the message that we are switching from large account to SMB. So we will continue to invest on large account, that in terms of IBM means the 10 integrated account and the 177 cluster we have in EMEA, where we want to grow the distributor revenue as the market is growing, and we will put in this segment of the market 10.5% additional resources. In total, I can add to my business 400 resources, and in total we will grow the resources on this space by 9%. But we want to invest more in the SMB space in what we call the territory accounts, and specifically we want to grow the revenue faster than the market to get, in principle, 1 point of share every year between large account and SMB, and we will invest 30% of additional resources. This is in term of a general game plan. What are the growth areas that we want to drive? Okay, this is the roadmap. Clearly we want to continue to be successful, as I said. To be successful means that we have to continue to close ELA. My personal target, I don't have a target, my personal goal in 2001 is to close 120 ELA. Last year we closed 88. Second, we have a unique chance to go back to our customer that already signed ELA proposing new products, because in the meantime we enrich our product portfolio. I give an example. We announced recently a set of DB tools on System 390, and these are very powerful, and we can have a lot of additional opportunities in the customer that already signed ELA. We want to have a fast-growing territory GMB, and here we are leading a lot of activities and a lot of effort in order to not only to deploy more resources, but also to develop faster and faster a strong channel organization, channel through traditional partner like distributor, but mainly also through influencers and through teleweb initiatives. Third, we want to capture more and more new growth opportunity. If you go back to my presentation, Mike covered very well. He addressed the portals, the Linux. So in all this area, we have a lot of opportunity to drive additional revenue. So this is mainly my roadmap to grow and to deliver this year the 11% growth that we are requested to deliver. What are my personal top priorities? What I can do as a leader of this team in order to help you and to help us to be successful? It's very simple. First, we want to continue to have a highly motivated team. And to me, a highly motivated team means three things. One, to offer a competitive compensation. So we will continue to be very aggressive on OTE. We will have OTE at the top of the industry. Second, we put together an outstanding sales plan. This sales plan last year was already good, but we had a couple of issues to be fixed. We fixed the issue, and we added additional accelerator. So we have a sales plan that we benchmark against the competition. We are at the top of the industry. Third, we will continue to have what I call over-the-top incentive, and this I don't have to do anything because Dan is great in that. He thinks, he called me, I execute, and Maui is a good example. By the way, can I apply for Maui? Last point, teamwork. We spend a lot of time today. I think that through teamwork, we can really go to the next level of growth. It's important that we understand that we run our business by brand, no doubt. So, but we have to leverage more and more one brand with the other, and to be sure that at the end of the day we deliver value to the customer. So this is roughly what are the priorities in 2001. We don't have time to go into detail, but we will have time during the parallel session to spend more time. And more important to me, I want now to ask to each of the leaders of the 4 brands to link to these priorities what are the specific priorities by brand. So again, we will go in alphabetic order. So David, your time to show to us.
So first I have a comment to Fritz. It's clear that my colleagues in Data and Tivoli were able to close deals at Deutsche Telekom last year. So it's pretty clear that you and I have got to work together with Domino and WebSphere to do the same in 2001. It's got to be our year. So in 2001, like 2000, again we've set out 2 major goals for the brand. The first is to establish WebSphere as the de facto standard for e-business infrastructure amongst our aligned and integrated accounts and in GMB. But not just the base foundation, MQ Series and WebSphere, but the entire WebSphere software platform that we announced in the summer. So it's probably in the context of that platform that I talk about how we're going to do that. First of all, we have to take the thousands of MQ Series and WebSphere customers that we've already seeded in the market. And on top of that, we need to sell our foundation extensions, our e-business development tools, our web user experience offering, and our integration middleware. And quite frankly, we also need to team up with Tivoli to sell the Policy Director offerings for WebSphere and MQ Series. And we also need to extend the penetration that we've made with these products from project-based sales into true enterprise licenses. Second, over 45% of the market have yet to make a strategic decision for their e-business infrastructure. It's a fantastic opportunity for us. To these customers, we have to exploit the extension products to help them speed up the delivery of their e-business strategy. And by the way, we can also use these products to differentiate ourselves from our competition and grow the size of the deal. Much of our competition is playing in one space within the platform. We're the only ones who can offer the complete portfolio for e-business. And third, we have to team again. We have to team up with our solution colleagues to leverage e-commerce, B2B, business process management, and portal solutions, which bring revenue in themselves, but they also drag large foundation sales, such as we saw in Siemens in the 4th quarter. And finally, we really have to build a mature partner network, one that provides value-added services around our portfolio. And this is not just key for our revenue in 2001, but it's absolutely critical for the long-term customer satisfaction around WebSphere and MQ Series. And finally, as I mentioned earlier, we can do a better job in influencing the influencers, in particular the global and regional system integrators and web integrators. And we also need to work in a better way with major ISVs like Siebel, SAP, i2, and Ariba. So that's our first goal. Let's move to the second goal. Maurizio already touched on this one, but we really need to stop BEA in 2001. I'm going to assume that some of you have not had the pleasure of competing against BEA, but let me share some personal experience. I think we're dealing with one, if not the most aggressive competition in the industry. They are hungry, they are desperate, and they will do anything to win, particularly when it comes to beating IBM. Now, quite frankly, we don't need to go down to their level. We have a deeper and broader proposition. We have the strength and depth of our development teams. We have a greater service capability. And finally, we have over 25 years experience in enterprise transaction management. But we do need to be prepared to challenge their lies, and we need to fight. And by the way, we need to enjoy it when we win. And by the way, this is important not just for growing our AIM business. It's also important about for long-term account control. My experience in year 2000 was that for every dollar we sold of WebSphere software, we were able to drive an additional $10 of IBM business in software group revenues, in servers, and in services. It will be absolutely critical that we succeed. My assessment. In 2001, we've reached a very important junction in this market. Our performance this year will determine whether we will be the long-term leader or we'll just be one of the pack. We're well set. We've got a strong set of products. We have a great team. We're making the right development investments. And as you saw from my earlier charts, we have great momentum. BEA are fighting for the future, but we have everything right. With aggression, acting first, acting fast, and being fearless against them, quite frankly, our future is in our own hands. We can do it.